Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Joe's Tobacco Reviews. I do not have any kind of tobacco review for you today. Instead, I got a subscriber by the name of Dedicated Smoker asked me if I would like to do a question and answer video. And I said sure, I'd love to. I think it's really, it's interesting to kind of have people ask you questions about things that you may have never considered before. So I have them all written down on this piece of paper here, and I guess I'm gonna go through them all. This video might be a little long, so if you're not interested in hearing any of these questions, then you could just switch off. But I thought some of them were interesting, so I guess I'll get started here with number one, which is, what triggered you to start a YouTube channel about smoking? And this one's interesting. Joe's Tobacco Reviews, I guess to this point, most of you would probably associate it with it like as a just a cigarette review channel, but in the future there's going to be a lot of other content, because I do smoke pipes and cigars and stuff like that, and I find that tobacco smoking, for me at least, goes a lot farther than just cigarette smoking. I really do like tobacco in general. It's not just about, like purely nicotine and, cigarettes and stuff like that. So what started it was, you see a lot of, there's individual segments of the YouTube community that mostly they gravitate towards one specific type of smoking. So there's like the YouTube pipe community, YTPC or whatever. And there's the cigar smoking community. And then there's the cigarette smoking community, which comprises cigarette reviews like Dan's Cigarette Review, which is a great channel. It's unfortunate what happened to Dan. And Nick the Smoker is another excellent channel. If you watch any of these videos, I think you're great. He is a really good cigarette reviewer. But so Joe's Tobacco Reviews kind of encompasses everything. So I want to make a channel where, I want people to watch my videos who like all kinds of smoking. It's a variety of different ideas and smoking mediums and stuff like that, so that's why I started it, because I wanted something to encompass all of those different communities and bring them together, because I think tobacco smoking is very unique, and fragmenting it just based on, some people, people who smoke pipes say that, cigars, or some of them say cigars are, not complex or sophisticated enough, and people who smoke cigars say the pipes are for people who don't like real smoke, and people who smoke cigarettes don't like either of those kind of people because they feel alienated by them. I think that's stupid. I want everybody to like these videos, so that was the reason why I created this channel. The second question Dedicated Smoker asked was about my smoking history, which is going to be in a video following this one. I'm not going to cover that because it's already been covered in another video. Number three, what makes a good cigarette? This is interesting. And he kind of like went into like, is it the nicotine level or the taste or whatever. To me, it's kind of hard, really, to describe what makes a good cigarette to me. I do like flavor. I think that's one of the main things that I look for when I choose a cigarette, is I want a cigarette that's strong enough in flavor, but I don't want something to, that kicks your ass, like with your throat or whatever, because, like, I find Lucky Strikes, I do like the flavor of them, but after smoking a pack of them, and I smoke them pretty quickly, and, you can feel it, and it's kind of painful, you can't breathe too well. So, kind of a balance of all those things. I like sweetness, I like richness, I like everything. It just has to be in the right proportion and in the right presentation, I guess. So I think what makes a good cigarette is kind of it's inexplicable, because it happens, you know what I mean? And that's kind of part of the reason I started the channel also, is to kind of experience them, you know what I mean? Because if I was to smoke by myself and not have anybody to watch me or, you know, listen to me review it, I wouldn't have much motivation to try new cigarettes. And I never liked that. You know, they say brand loyalty and cigarette smokers is the highest among any category. And I think that's just because no one has any incentive to change. You know what I mean? If you smoke Camel Unfiltered and you love the taste of them, why would you change, you know? So that's why I wanted to start this channel, so I could experience different things. Number 4, what is my daily driver or everyday smoke? Well, that one is hard too. So everyday smokes, like cigarettes that I've smoked that I could smoke every day, there's a couple. Camel Unfiltered I could smoke every day, and after a while I'd probably, you know, not be able to breathe anymore, but you know, that's one of the consequences, unfortunately, of smoking. But I do enjoy Camel Unfiltered. Marlboro Red, especially in the soft pack, I love them. They're a good cigarette, they're nice and strong. Camel Filtered, I don't mind them either. Pall Mall, if Pall Mall Unfiltered were packed better and they actually put more tobacco in them so that you weren't getting them all in your mouth, all the flakes in your mouth, they would be an everyday smoke. My grandfather smokes them every day. He smoked them for the past, you know, 65 years or so every day, and he likes them. So I do think they're good, yeah. Or Lucky Strikes if they were a little less harsh on the throat. Number 5, how many cigarettes do you smoke each day? Now this is actually an interesting topic. So I'm in college and I don't have a lot of money, and so cigarette smoking it adds up very quickly. And so actually I'll pull it out right now. Oh, it's the dreaded vape. Now, love it or hate it, some people swear by vapes, some people hate them. What I found was I was smoking so much that, you know, eventually the taste of smoking degrades when you smoke a lot. You know, your nicotine tolerance, you know, you have to smoke more and whatever. So I was smoking, if I was to not have a vape, I would probably smoke about a pack a day, to be honest, between like 15 and a pack. Like 15 to a pack a day I'd probably smoke if I didn't have that. With this, I can go about a week on a pack. I smoke every day, but I just smoke less, you know, so I enjoy it more. Number 6, do you regret picking up smoking, or are you proud of it? No, I don't regret it at all. I can't. I can't see people regretting something like that. Well, I could, but I don't, because, you know, and I'm not proud of it either. It's kind of neutral, you know what I mean? I like smoking because I like the experience, so I'm not proud of it. I don't show off and, you know, oh, I'm a cigarette smoker. That's, you know, especially in today's day and age, that's not really a thing to be proud of, really, and it's not something that I regret. So I would have to say I'm on the proud of it side, but I'm not, I wouldn't say verbally to anybody that I'm proud of it. I just do it. You know, it never crossed my mind actually until you asked this question, dedicated smoker. I don't know. I really don't, for number 6. I think that I think it's an interesting thing to do. I think that it can improve a conversation if you're with other people that smoke. I find that the community with smoking in general is just, it's so rich, and, you know, people are very close. 7, do you find it hard that smoking is often frowned upon? Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I don't, it's not like a personal thing. Like, I'm not offended. You know, if I go to a casino or something and there's a smoking section and I'm smoking, you know, if people don't want me to smoke around them, I'm not going to intentionally expose them to that, because it's your right to not be exposed to it if you don't want to. Now, At the college where I'm at OSU, Oklahoma State University, their whole campus is non-smoking. And that's bullshit, if you want to hear my opinion. I think if they had sections that had, you know, like a smoking area, and maybe like, you know, 2 or 3 throughout the campus, it's completely fine. You know, I'm not expecting you to go into a classroom building and be sitting at a desk smoking. That's, you know, that's ridiculous. That might have happened in the 60s, but, you know, I think that saying, like, this whole entire area is non-smoking, that's stupid. Especially with parks and stuff. Some places have parks that you can't smoke in. I think that's ridiculous. I really do. And I find it hard that smoking is frowned upon because of the fact that it inconveniences me. You know what I mean? I don't want to, you know, inconvenience other people, but at the same time, you know, what I do is my business. You know what I mean? And if I'm sitting in a public area and you come up to me and you're a non-smoker, I'm not going to, you know, yield to you. I'm going to say, find somewhere else. You know what I mean? That's why I think that smoking areas, designated smoking areas, are perfectly fine. That scared me a little bit. My seatbelt clip. I thought someone was slamming on the window or something. So yeah, I find it inconveniencing, to say the least. 8. Do you consider yourself addicted to cigarettes? Do you remember when you first realized you had become addicted, and how did that make you feel? Well, I'm not addicted to cigarettes. I might be addicted to nicotine. That's completely different. You know, nicotine is a substance, and cigarettes are a product. You know, that I find that nicotine addiction really, I could quit smoking if I wanted to. You know, it would be unpleasant for a little bit, I'm sure. You know, that first, you know, couple of weeks when you don't have any nicotine and, you know, your body doesn't feel right. I've gone a couple of days without smoking before, and it does feel weird. I wouldn't say I'm addicted as in, you know, drug addict kind of, you know, they say, some people say that cigarette smoking is like heroin addiction. That's ridiculous. But I do realize that I do enjoy nicotine. That's why I have a vape. I wouldn't have a vape if I didn't enjoy nicotine, because I don't really like vaping, to be honest. So, how does it make me feel? I feel indifferent, you know what I mean? I just go and do my thing, and I incorporate nicotine use into my lifestyle. You know, it doesn't make me feel like, you know, disgusting, or, you know, it's part of my life. You know, if I wanted to quit, I'd stop and, you know, feel like shit for 4 weeks and be done with it, you know. But yeah, no, I just, you know, it's just part of my life. It's part of a lot of people's lives. 9. A good friend tells you he is thinking about picking up smoking. What would you say to him? Most of my close friends do smoke. And if they don't, they're not against it. So I've never really had the experience of someone who's never smoked before saying, oh, you know, I want to start smoking cigarettes, because it's just never happened to me. But if someone did say that, the first thing I would ask is why. You know, and if they said, oh, I want to, you know, I want nicotine or whatever, I'd say just go and get a vape. If you strictly only enjoy consuming products because of the nicotine in them, then smoking cigarettes is ridiculous. It's, you know, it just, you know, because there are health risks associated with it, and if the only reason, you know what I mean, go and get Nicorette gum and chew on it for all I care if, you know, you want nicotine. Now, if you say, you know, oh, I want to try, you know, tobacco and experience it and all that stuff, I'd say go ahead. Go and do it. I don't care. You know, I'm not out there advocating for it, but if someone asks me, I'd tell them, yeah, definitely. 10. Can you smoke at work and take smoke breaks? I currently do not have a job. As I'm at college, I'm looking for a job. All the jobs I've had in the past did allow people to smoke, yeah, and take smoke breaks. I worked as a delivery driver at a Napa Auto Parts store, and they allowed us to smoke in the trucks. At that time I wasn't a smoker, but if I wanted to, I could smoke. or go outside, behind the loading area and have a smoke. That was common. So yeah, no, everywhere I've been, I worked at a restaurant too for a little bit, and they allowed smoke breaks also. So that's the answer to that question. 11. What's the best tasting cigarette of the day? And for example, like with coffee in the morning or whatever, or I think he said a beer on the couch. I'm only 18. It's funny to say that because I'm sure a lot of people don't really think that. I don't appear that way. But I have consumed alcohol while smoking. We went on a trip to Montreal, Quebec, and in Quebec you only have to be 18 to drink. So yeah, we made up some gin and tonics and smoked a couple Camel unfiltered, and that is really pleasant. Cigarettes are good with I find whiskey. Whiskey is really good. Especially if they're sweet, like Camels, they kind of balance out the harshness of the whiskey, you know what I mean? But that's kind of the point of the whiskey, so they complement it, definitely. But having said that, I think the best tasting cigarette of the day, to be honest, would be in the morning, early in the morning too, maybe like 6 or 7 in the morning, with a nice hot cup of coffee, strong coffee. Sometimes I drink McDonald's coffee, and I don't really find that to be too strong. Something like, I guess, Dunkin' Donuts, if you want a chain, or make your own coffee. Really strong, really bold coffee, and a sweet cigarette, black. I drink my coffee black, no sugar, so definitely. That's heavenly. It's heavenly because the first cigarette usually of the day, you get the most flavor from. After that, it subsequently decreases because, your mouth, your palate gets used to it. So in the morning with a nice cup of coffee, it definitely, it's really good. Um, 12. What's your opinion on big tobacco putting additives in cigarettes to make them more addictive? Is it immoral, or why we buy cigarettes? Well, there's very little tobacco made in the world that doesn't have some kind of added anything. I mean, even pipe tobacco and stuff has added flavorings. They don't really add nicotine to them. Now, the whole thing, I guess this is really, when you're talking about cigarettes, is about putting nicotine in them. And what I could tell you about that, from what I understand, is most cigarettes, almost all cigarettes, maybe Natural American Spirit or some really premium brands use whole leaf tobacco and shred it. Most cigarettes, though, use what's called reconstituted sheet tobacco. And reconstituted sheet tobacco, the problem with it is, so they get all this tobacco, it's all grated up, and they put it in and they blend it, and then they put it in a chemical slurry. And what it does is it takes out some of the acids in the tobacco that make it harsh. It's the reason why if you smoke a real cigar or something, you might find it really hard to inhale, because natural tobacco is kind of really harsh in the respiratory system. So when they do that, they also extract some of the nicotine accidentally, or intentionally if they're making vape juice, because all nicotine in vape juice is derived from tobacco, if you didn't know that. I hope you did. So then when it comes out in these sheets that they press, and then they chop it up. And it's pretty bland and tasteless, really. It's really unpleasant, I'm sure, to smoke reconstituted sheet tobacco. So what they do is they spray it down with flavorings. They spray chocolate. A lot of cigarettes have chocolate flavoring in it. Some have maybe vanilla or something, I'm not sure exactly, but sugar is a really common flavoring to give it some flavor. And then they're left with the fact that you have a cigarette that doesn't have much nicotine in it. And yeah, I mean, I guess they do it to make people addicted, but I guess it's kind of the reason why we smoke. So how I feel about it is that it enhances smoking in some ways and degrades it in adding nicotine obviously makes cigarettes more addictive because nicotine's an addictive chemical. But at the same time, it makes them more satisfying, and with the flavoring, it's more flavorful. So I really don't have an opinion of big tobacco doing that. So, do I find it right that they put more nicotine in it? It's justified, really, in my opinion. So I think it's why people buy cigarettes is because of the additives, really. If they just made reconstituted sheet tobacco plain cigarettes, they would taste terrible, and no one would smoke them, and then they wouldn't have an industry. 13, are people surprised when they find out or you tell them that you smoke? Most of my friends already know that, and they've known it for years, because a lot of friends I grew up with, we smoked when I was really young. Not really young, 13, 14. So they're not surprised, obviously, because they've been doing it with me. I'm sure if people that I knew that never knew that side of me were to find that out, they would be surprised. I was an AP student in high school, honor roll, distinguished honor student. I took college courses while in high school. I did everything that would stereotypically not be of a smoker. And I say stereotypically because, people like to put other people in boxes. I think it's wrong. I think it really is. Especially being part of that, people would say, oh, he's a real, straight shooter or whatever, he doesn't do any of that stuff. No, I do. And I do it because I like it. And I think there's a lot of other people who may be viewed the same way as me who do smoke. And I think it's completely fine. I mean, President Barack Obama was a smoker. He's President of the United States. So people still liked him even though he was a smoker. But I think that they would be surprised, a lot of people. But most of the people I talk to already know that. So it's never really happened to me. So maybe when it does, I could tell you about my experience.